Okay, so it's entirely possible that this is just because I am an elder millennial who spent her childhood taking personality quizzes and then posting the results in my AIM away message. Does everyone remember that, or is it just me? Just me. Okay, one of the things that I absolutely love to take is a personality test. I find them very insightful. I think it's really interesting to compare and contrast between my loved ones, my coworkers, anyone and everyone. I find it very interesting and insightful. If you're in the Keller Williams universe, then you have definitely heard of the KPA, the Keller Personality Assessment. This is what we utilize in our business world to see if people are going to be a good fit for the role ostensibly. And what I tend to notice is that a lot of us have people take these tests. We kind of sort of go through them with the person. And then we tuck them into a drawer in our desk and we never look at them again. And then when conflict arises, we wonder what the heck is wrong with that person, not me, and fire them and move on and do the whole thing all over again, which takes up a ton of energy, effort, money, whole 9 yards. What I would like for us to look at with the KPA today is kind of evaluating it in a slightly different way, or perhaps a more nuanced way than you've previously been doing it. So what I encourage folks to do is to take the KPAs of everyone on your team, especially your direct reports. And so there may be many of these little conglomerations throughout your team of these bringing together of reports. But what I'm encouraging you to do is to take the KPAs of the members of your team and stack them on top of each other so that way you can actually see where people overlap and where they differ. So an example of this would be this, where you've taken your team members, or again, at the very least, the people who are your direct reports, and we've stacked the results of their KPAs on top of one another. Now, just a quick reminder, we want to have varying behavioral traits based on various roles within the team. That makes sense, right? We wouldn't want everyone to have the same makeup as a rainmaker or the same makeup as a transaction coordinator. We want each person to kind of fit in their own box. The place that I think that we don't do a great job of looking at, and what I'm really going to ask us to zero in on today, is the thinking styles down here at the bottom. So keep that in mind first and foremost, is that our KPA is actually broken into two different types. We have behavioral styles and then thinking styles. So with the thinking styles, this is where I tend to see a lot of conflict pop up on teams. Say, for example, you are someone who prefers, here's a perfect example of this, logical problem solving, and you're talking to someone who that isn't their preference in solving problems or thinking through problems. And you're coming at them with a logical problem solving approach where you're asking them, well, what would be the first thing that we would do? And then once that's done, well, what issues might arise from that? And how would we tackle those issues? And they're saying instead, I would prefer that we really just vocalize the whole thing out. And we're going to talk through all the starts and finishes and the whole 9 yards. And of course, here's what gets interesting too, is not only do we miss the fact that we're not looking at thinking styles at all, we also miss the fact that the KPA has specific definitions that we should be utilizing when it comes to understanding what the heck these things mean. We can't use our definitions for what these words mean. We need to use exactly what the measure says we should be utilizing, understanding these as. So a couple things to look at here to get a grip on your team's KPA at a higher level. I would first take some time to overlap the results of your direct reports and compare where do people stand. If you don't know where to do this, I did it simply just by adding in a blank KPA measure into Canva. You can tell by my little symbols here, and utilizing a various symbol for each person to lay them on the scale. The second thing I would do is to really reflect on who has what thinking style within our team. Is there a general thinking style that everyone seems to coalesce around? Or is it possible that we need to really be clear about when I'm speaking to Heather, for example, on that sheet, I really need to choose what type of thinking style I'm going to utilize. And it's also worth noticing, am I someone who has a difficult time modifying my thinking style to the styles of others? Because if so, we're going to run into a lot of conflict. If you haven't taken some time to examine where is the conflict in my team showing up, and to take a second to see, is it possible that it's because we're talking through problems literally using different languages? If that is the case, take a second, examine your team's KPA, and see if there's a meeting that can be had where we could all kind of come together as a team, better understand one another, and work through conflict with more skill and grace. It all starts with understanding the KPA at a higher level.